Listen. Tune to the frequency of the wood and you'll hear the deer breathing, a muscle tensing, the sigh of a field mouse under an owl, relaxing. Now listen to yourself, that friction, the push and drag, the double pulse, the drum. You can hear it clearly. You can hear the sound of your body breaking down. If you're very quiet, you might pick up loss, or rather the thin noise that losing makes. Perdition. If you're absolutely silent and still, you can hear nothing but the sound of nothing. This voice and its wasting, the soul's tinsel. Listen. Listen. I'm going to read a mixture of new and old. It's another new one. It's a Scottish story I made up. By Clachan Bridge. I remember the girl with the hare lip down by Clachan Bridge, cutting up fish to see how they worked. By morning's end, her nails were black-red, her hands all sequined silver. She simplified rabbits to a rickle of bones, dipped into a dormouse for the pit of its heart. She'd opened everything, that girl. They say they found wax dolls in her wall, poppets full of human hair, but I'd say they're wrong. What's true is that the blacksmith's son, the simpleton, came down here once, fathomed her and bucked, claimed she licked him clean as a whistle. I remember the tiny stars of her hands around her belly as it grew, and how, after a year, nothing came. How she said it was still there inside her, a stone baby. And how I saw her wrists blue-bangled with scars, and those hands flittering at her throat to the plectrum of bone she'd hung there. As to what happened to the blacksmith's boy, no one knows, and I'll keep my tongue. Last thing I heard, the starlings had started to mimic her crying, and she'd learnt how to fly. There's a mythological creature in Celtic mythology called the Selkie, a seal in the sea, but able to swim up onto dry land and shed their skin and walk up onto the beach as a man. This is an elegy for a friend of mine, a friend of a lot of poets who died not so long ago, Michael Donaghy, an Irish-American folk singer and mostly musician, and he used to play the whistle and the bowron, which is an Irish frame drum, which appears in this poem. Selkie, in memory of Michael Donaghy. I'm not stopping, he said, shrugging off his skin like a wetsuit, then stretching it on the bowron's frame. Let's play. And he played till dawn all the jigs and reels he knew before he stood and drained the last from his glass, slipped back into the seal skin, into a new day, saluting us with that famous grin. That's me away. I go to Italy a lot, where the sun shines. And I stayed recently in a tower in a writer's retreat, and where Bruce Chatwin worked there once, so I was very excited. But when I went into my room, it was completely full of flies everywhere. Windows, you couldn't see through them, flies everywhere. So I presumed he'd not only worked there, he died there too. So I spent the next 2 hours looking under things. So this is called La Stanza della Mosca, the room of flies. The room sizzles in the morning sun, a tinnitus of flies at the bright windows, butting and dunting the glass. One dings off the light to the floor, vibrating blackly, pittering against the wall before taxi and takeoff. Another low, moaning flight, another fruitless stab at the world outside. They drop on my desk, my hands, and spin their long deaths on their backs on the white tiles, first one way, then the other. Tiny humming tops that stop and start, a sputter of bad wiring, whining to be stubbed out. This is a poem called Rainmaker, which I read earlier today in my hotel room. It's actually not in the tradition of my poems, it's got nothing to do with rain. It's another filthy poem. Rainmaker. Tentative rain and the light is changing, the water ticking in the leaves, pattering the sheets as she turns to him, murmuring, slow and ready for the verge of flood, the undertows, hard covenant, the run of trust. She feels something unfurling in a glut of dew, a finger pushing into a peach water welling over fern and fruit. She tastes the curve and ache in the weather. He unhooks her, and leaning in, he starts to make her rain.
Having a hot flash.
Entry. This is said about this time, but in England, this time of year. Entry. A buzzard works the fields behind the harvesting, the slung bolt of her body balanced in the wind by wings and tail, hanging over the machine blades and the soft flesh far below. A rabbit, exposed in the shorn stalks, and she's holds still till her wings fall away and she drops like a slate into snow. The wounds feather through him, throwing a fine mist of incarnation, annunciation in the fletched field. And she breaks in, flips the latches of the back, opens the red drawer in his chest, ransacking the heart. Two poems about writers now. I've been enjoying writing disobliging poems about August Strindberg, who was a great writer, a painter and everything else, but completely mad and a catastrophic human being. Everything he did went wrong, particularly in his love life. This is just before he gets married to his second wife. On the day after they got married, she woke to find him straddling her with his hands around her neck, trying to throttle her. And she said, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" She said, "Oh, I'm terribly sorry." He said, "I thought you were my first wife." So that's the kind of guy he is. Anyway, this is him in Berlin, trying to get his writing done, doing a bit of alchemy. But he spends all his time drinking in this bar with people like Edvard Munch, and he's having an affair with one woman, and he's just got engaged to the woman he's about to strangle later on in his life. Anyway, you got the picture. Strindberg in Berlin. All the wrong turnings that have brought me here, debts, divorce, a court trial, and now a forced exile in this city, in this drinking cell, zum Schwarzensferkel, the black porker. Neither home nor hiding place, just another indignity, just a different make of hell. Outside, a world of people queuing to stand in my light, and that sound far in the distance of my life, labouring to catch up. I've now pulled out every good tooth in search of the one that was making me mad. I squint at the flasks and alembics, head like a wasp's nest, and pour myself 3 fingers and a fresh start. A glass of aqua vita, a straightener, stiffener, universal tincture, same again. The cleansing fire, a steadying hand on the dancing hand, the great purifier, clarifier, one more if you wouldn't mind. Bringer of spirit and the spirit of love, the famous transmutation of the leaden into gold, the dead back into life. The Pole at the piano, of course, Munch opposite me, his face like a shirt done up wrong. My fiancé in one corner, my lover in another, merging, turning, as all women turn back into my daughters, and I am swimming naked at night off the island in the witch fire of Mareld light, listening to the silence of the stars with my children beside me, my beautiful lost children in the swell of the night, swimming beside me, and back to the bright salts and acids, the spill and clamour of the bar, the elixirs, the women, my wife-to-be, my young lover, one banked hearth, one unattended fire. Christ, the hot accelerant of drink, the rot of desire. And out into the swinging dark, a moon of mercury, lines of vitriol trees, and the loose earth that rises up, drops on me, burying me, night after night after night. The great Scots poet Hugh MacDiarmid was a very stern, austere, curmudgeonly, difficult man by all accounts. Not famous for his sense of humour or his easy sensuality. And in this poem, I imagine a situation that both of us would find utterly excruciating. Very short poem called Through the Tweed. Giving a back rub to Hugh MacDiarmid, I felt through the tweed so much tension in that determined neck, those little bony shoulders, that when it was released, he simply stood up and fell over. I never met Hugh MacDiarmid, lucky for him. But I'm sorrier still that I never met the character in this next very short poem, Alice. This is called Wonderland. She said her name was Alice, that she'd studied with the geisha